Welcome back, Trent.
Welcome back, Trevor. How you doing?
I'm doing great. Yourself?
Oh, fantastic.
It's almost like we were just here doing this.
I get a little deja vu.
Yeah.
Set's still looking good.
Yeah.
Still
the same
studio.
set. You know, until we move
Till we move.
to the new office. Yeah, I mean, I guess that's good. What about those manatees?
The manatees?
Yeah, we have manatees in Florida.
Oh. I was like, are they looking to buy houses? Should I be pre-approving for manatees?
No, they had this huge article about a week ago that people were up in arms that the manatees were still on the threatened species list. I mean, people were up in arms, and when I first read the title, I was like, wait, what? They're mad that they're on the threatened species list. What's it?
Why would you be mad about that?
Yeah. Why? Turns out that those people actually wanted them on the endangered species list, which gets more protections. Yeah, you got to read the article to figure that out.
Gotcha. Because I was like, what are you mad? Did you want one as a pet? It's on the threatened species. I can't keep one in my pool.
And these things are monsters. Have you ever seen one in real life?
I did, yeah.
Okay. So
they're huge. They really are like cows at the sea.
Yeah, they're. I think they're bigger than cows. I swear they're huge. But what's happening is they're in the coast and the warm waters, more shallow areas. And there's a lot of places that they're getting hit by boats and stuff. And so what people are saying is anywhere where there should be manatees, they should be treated like an endangered species, meaning that wake has to go down to zero. If you hit one, you have to be accountable for it or something like that. And so you don't get those accountabilities in the threatened species versus the endangered.
Gotcha.
So I just I saw an article on it when we were looking earlier, and I was like, oh wait, a week ago when I saw that article, I was like, what? Why are people mad that it's on? I thought it'd just be interesting to throw that out.
No, it is always interesting, and then you have to definitely read. It's always these headlines are so catchy, and they're like, why? Why are you mad about that? Oh,
yeah,
I want them to be more protected.
Yeah, well, they wanted to be mad, and it worked. I was like, wait, what? Why would anybody be mad? Like what? And you got to read the article, and the article was actually pretty good, but it was only 2 paragraphs long. Oh. It was the first one was like they're actually on the threatened species list now, and the next one was like that most people want them on the endangered species. And I was like, wow, that's a good article. Anything I can read in about 30 seconds, I'm like, that's fantastic.
That is nearly about the attention span that people have now.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. So you were saying something earlier about affordability, and thank goodness we weren't talking about not remembering what we were talking about, because I don't remember what we were talking about. What was it about affordability? Something about Fannie Mae 12.0 or something?
Yeah, so it's this really interesting thing, and you don't really need to know the whole 12.0 thing, but Fannie updated some of their guidelines, which is cool because that controls a lot of your loans, conventional side and all that. One of the things they did was they changed first-time home buyer from a negative indicator on approval to a positive one. So a quick background is what I like to tell people is like, hey, I have your loan application in, and now I'm going to run it past the robots. They kind of check, green light, this is approved eligible. This loan would go through before an actual human looks at it. So it's a really good thing for first-time homebuyers now have a positive attribute on it because it affects a little bit of the qualifying. So some of those cases where maybe your debt to income was a little bit higher, you're doing that higher loan to value because you're putting minimum down. Some of those zeros might flip to ones in some cases where somebody might now get approved for a loan in a little bit different circumstances than others.
That's interesting. So what you're saying is they value first-time home buyers greater now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a positive thing to be a first-time home buyer. Before, they were kind of saying, you're a first-time home buyer, we better overcome some things.
So let me get this straight. And a lot of this is just for our viewers too, but some of it's for me. Fannie Mae, obviously, they buy mortgages on the secondary market.
Yes.
But they're also involved with Freddie Mac and stuff on a lot of the policies and everything because they're the ones backing the mortgage industry, correct?
Correct. So basically, they're your big back-end investors. So when a mortgage is originated, it's very, very rare is kept in-house. A lot of times, person originates it, it gets sold to a servicer who goes and takes care of you, collects your payments, makes sure that your taxes are paid on time, insurance is paid on time, all that good stuff. Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac are the two biggest on the secondary market that buy mortgages. Now, they each have very similar guidelines, but there's few differences in between the two.
Yeah, I can't remember. I remember reading the differences between them, but I can't remember what they were. Like Freddie Mac goes after something different, I thought. I can't remember.
It's a little different. So they do something with student loans that can be beneficial if you have those and you don't have a payment yet, if they're in deferment, because we still have to count those against you. However, on the Fannie side, it's 1% on a conventional loan of your total outdue balance. On a Freddie Mac, it's 0.5%. So that can kind of balance out
Interesting.
somebody qualifying or not, especially if you're like, hey, I just went to school, I got all these student loans, as is fairly common in this country. I have $50,000 in student loan debt. Well, Fannie's gonna be like, that's $500 against your debt. Freddie's gonna be like, it's okay, it's just $250.
Okay, so that's interesting. But when you're going when you're getting approved for a loan though, but you're going through like FHA and stuff like that. So what does that have to do with Freddie Mac and Fannie Mae?
So you have to pick when you're doing conventional or FHA, you pick whose guidelines you want to fit the loan parameters. So
and they're both government backed.
They're both backed by the investors. So like the government can throttle whether or not, hey, we want you to buy more.
Government regulated is what I mean.
Government regulated, yeah.
Okay.
So they might say, hey, at the given time, we need you to buy more mortgage-backed securities, which would be great because they've been able to back off on that, and that does kind of affect our favorite R word, too.
Yeah, that's true. The rates. Speaking of which, didn't the Consumer Price Index, did that come out yesterday or today? Because I was kind of thinking that was going to be affecting the rates too. I didn't look to see. I'll look in a second. But the CPI I know was the last thing we were kind of waiting for this month to see what was going on.
Yeah, we'll have to check and see on that. But it's always, if it comes in what they expected, maybe it comes down a little bit. I was seeing it hair down a little bit yesterday. Hair, very, very thin, wispy hair. But
not enough to mention.
Not enough to mention. No, I'm not going on social media being like, it's dropping. But,
I know. So that's but I mean that's interesting. So that's interesting stuff. So basically, as a first-time home buyer, it's going to become, because we were talking about affordability, but it's actually just, is it affordability or is it just, I guess because it would have to do with your approval and how good the approval would be.
So it is affordability in this terms that if you don't get approved eligible, the underwriter won't look at it in most cases. So if now you have a file that maybe at a certain loan to value, debt to income, wouldn't have been a yes, approved eligible because it was negative first time home buyer, but now it's positive, you can now move on to the next stage. Be like, oh, yeah. And sometimes that can affect your price point. If you're like, oh man, I'm at 300 where I was at before, but now my approval says 315 at a little bit higher debt to income because the mortgage is a little bit more. Now you're looking at 315, which can help your buying power.
That's really interesting. Yeah. So buying power, affordability, and just getting approved in general, really.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I mean, okay. So go Fannie Mae, and that already came out, or it's coming out?
That actually came out in November.
Okay. So we're a good couple months into it almost.
Yeah.
Or so.
Starting to see some good trends from it. Another thing that's kind of interesting on it is they raised the loan to value on where you could potentially get an appraisal waiver. So
that's right, you were mentioning that.
Before it was 80% loan to value on a conventional loan. You can only get on a conventional, never government. Government says you better appraise that property.
Right.
Now it can be up to 90%. Might get an appraisal waiver.
I can't imagine a conventional loan at 90% not going for an appraisal. That just seems like you're just, I could see even at 80% because you're messing with PMI and other things.
Right.
That you're just like, why would you ever, even at this price? Like I could see maybe you're like 70 or 60, you're like, oh, that's fine.
Well, I think because it comes down to your sales price was negotiated using, previous number of 300,000.
Yeah.
The seller and the buyer agreed to buy this house for 300,000. We both say so, that this is a good price, and the buyer's putting, 10%, 20% down. And if on the back end, Fannie Mae says, I agree with you, then appraisal is not needed, then maybe they're like, well, the people who sell and buy a lot of these mortgages agree that 300 is a good price point. We're good with it. Plus, it saves time on the file. You don't have to wait for that appraisal to come back. And it saves money too.
Doesn't save them money.
Saves the buyer money because they don't have to
the
pay
buyer money, but not the lender, which is the one that's bypassing the appraisal.
Yeah, but now they can go and flaunt and look how fast we closed this loan, right?
Yeah, but that doesn't sound like the government. The government is always like, hey, how many additional charges can we add?
Yeah.
So when you say that, I'm just like, this isn't making sense. Save money, save people money. Doesn't make sense. I don't know.
Sometimes they do that.
Yeah, I think it's just there's got to be something else for them, and they get more business or whatever out of it. I don't know how that works. It just seems like you always want to appraise something. They're just, I don't know.
I think it just comes back to affordability in a way too, where you can say, now I don't have this additional expense.
Yeah.
I can get to it closer. And plus there's so much categorized data now on home prices,
right,
and area, and it happens a little more frequently on houses that were sold within a certain time period. So maybe it was appraised 5 years ago and they use that data to say, hey, I think we're still good on this price.
Well, you're spot on. There's so much conformity in the newer subdivisions and everything. When you get a sale in a newer subdivision, it's like, it's not even really science. I used to have to do all sorts of things to adjust, like all sorts of adjustments to get prices or at least homes to look similar to, have comps.
Yeah.
And now the conformity is such that you can almost find the exact same floor plan, maybe slight differences, paint color, different, cabinets or whatever. But it's like the conformity is such that you can find the price pretty easily nowadays. It's, it's 100%. pretty impressive. But so there's other stuff going on. I'm actually working with this guy that over in the Clearwater area, so I work in a lot of pre-foreclosures, short sales and stuff. And he lost his home actually sold it. He sold it back in March. And the person that bought it paid cash or something. And the title company did not satisfy all the liens.
Oh.
And so this guy, I contacted him because I was like, hey, you're having a foreclosure on this house. And he's like, I don't own that house anymore. And I was like, wait, what? So I look, it's like a $1.8 million house. So I look up, county records, who owns it. And it's some sort of LLC. So I look up who's registered agent of the LLC and stuff. And it's definitely not the guy I was talking to.
Okay.
And so I'm trying to figure out, I was like, well, so I called the guy back and I was like, so you're getting sued by a roofing company, actually. And that's what happens in foreclosures. It's a judicial state in Florida. So they open up a complaint, a lis pendens, and you get sued. And so he's getting sued by a roofer that did work on a house that he doesn't own at a time when he didn't own the house. And the roofer didn't get paid. And so he's suing. So I call this guy and I'm like, what is going on with this? And he's like, well, the guy opted out of title insurance.
Oops.
And so the guy opted out of title insurance, and somehow the guy I'm calling, the previous owner, never got paid the rest of the amount that he was supposed to get. None of the liens got satisfied. And so the bank that was supposed to get satisfied, they're not even foreclosing on him because they're on his side. They're on this guy's side. And so they're just like, yeah, there's something off about this, and we need to figure out what the heck's going on. So I call the title company. I'm like, what the heck is going on with this?
Yeah.
And they're like, all right, we're not at liberty to talk about it. And yeah, I know, weird. So I call the other agents in the deal because I'm like, okay, this got sold at the end of March. And I call the buyer's agent and the listing agent. I'm like, did you guys get paid on this? Both of them got paid.
Okay. Well, somebody got paid.
Everybody got paid but the seller and the liens on the house.
Huh.
So I don't know what the heck's going on. Anyways, we're looking, I got it with my attorneys, and we're looking to try to probably sue the title company. I don't really know what the heck is going on, but it seems like it's the responsibility of the title company. They're the closing agent.
Mm-hmm.
So they're supposed to satisfy all liens.
Yeah.
Now, they don't have a guarantee that everything got satisfied because there was no title insurance purchased. But I don't know how that works. I still think they're responsible.
So the person who sold the house in March didn't get the title insurance, or did he have title insurance and then the next
buyer said that they didn't want it, and so they opted out of it, and that he didn't. So and the seller didn't need to pay it, and he's just going with the flow. He's like, whatever, okay, if I don't need to pay it, save me money.
Yeah.
And but it turns out when you don't have title insurance and there's title issues, here we are.
Yeah. So does it expire like the moment he doesn't get paid on the new transaction, or does his insurance that he paid for with his when he bought the place, does that count? Can you is he protected that way?
That's a good point. I don't know. We'll look at that title insurance on his purchase. I would think it's the transaction of him selling it, and then the title insurance saying that the buyer, isn't buying. Well, not in Florida. In most states, the buyer buys the title insurance because they want to guarantee their own title. It makes sense.
Makes sense.
In Florida, the seller guarantees the title. I guarantee that what I'm selling you is so they pay for the title insurance. Also makes sense.
Right. Exactly.
As long as there's title insurance, I feel like it makes sense.
Yeah.
When there's not title insurance, but there's issues. But I think it's the buyers because it goes back to the sale. So the buyer's supposed to have one. The one that he purchased it, there was no issues in the title where he purchased it. So yeah,
this guy's just not, beating down the door and be like, "Where's my money? Like, you bought my house. I didn't get paid. I am unsatisfied with this transaction."
This guy that I called, he was living in a $1.8 million house. He sold it. He was supposed to get those proceeds as a down payment for his new house down south from Clearwater, and he never got that money. So as he went down south, he was in a rental and stuff for a little bit, but they kept pushing him off. He was saying he was going to get his money. He never got his money. Fell out of contract on the house that he was on down there. He was supposed to buy $1 million house down there. Doesn't have any money because of the house sale, having complete issues. So now he's renting out of this $300,000 house. And I was talking to him on the phone, and he's like, dude, I went from being a millionaire to being dirt poor. Just he's like, all my equity lost,
Jeez.
Yeah. And so I'm just like, this is insane. I'm looking at the whole thing. Yeah. And I'm looking at the whole thing, and I'm just like, man, I don't even know how this stuff happens. I don't.
Yeah.
How does everybody get paid, but the bank doesn't get paid?
The bank doesn't get paid. The seller doesn't get paid.
The seller doesn't get paid.
What was the point of the sale?
What was the point of the sale? And you can look up on Zillow and see the sale, and I can look up in the MLS and see the sale. That's why I was like, because at first I was like, well, maybe it wasn't a real sale. Maybe it was just, recorded as a sale, and it actually didn't sell, but it really did sell. So, anyways, my attorneys are working on that, and then hopefully, what's going to happen is we'll get the house back for him, and then we'll resell it.
Yeah.
So
then I'll actually get paid.
Yeah, and then I'll get the listing, and then a couple houses down from him, there's another illegal foreclosure going on this $2.2 million house, and that guy, he actually just got foreclosed on, so he just got kicked out right around Christmas time.
Oh no.
Yeah, horrible. And this guy is incredibly cool, but he doesn't have any money because he's been fighting all these legal battles. And this other guy didn't have any money because he got it all taken. But once we get that house sold, this guy is going to pay for his attorney fees to go against it. So we potentially could have a couple $1 million houses right next to each other, But both of them, the other one was even more weird because the state, it was the IRS was foreclosing on him, and then he worked out a deal with the IRS, but I can't remember exactly what happened. There was something involved with the lender and the IRS. Well, the lender kept foreclosing on him, even after he got everything worked out and everything. So anyways, he was current and everything, and they kept foreclosing on him. And so now they were illegally foreclosing, and there was other things that happened. Anyways, my attorneys were talking to him, and they're like, oh yeah, this is like a slam dunk.
Yeah.
So, but my attorneys don't work for free. That's the strange thing. I like, it's weird talking to attorneys because I'm like, you do realize as a lender or as a realtor, I only get paid after the work is done. At the end of the road, after I've done hours and hours and hours of work and figured it, we don't get paid till then. But attorneys, you better pay them up front, otherwise they're not jumping in. And they told me, they're like, this is a slam dunk. And I'm like, then why wouldn't you just take it like with some sort of contingency?
Yeah, we'll get paid at closing, or we'll get paid from the proceeds,
right?
Or something like that.
Yeah, if it's a slam dunk, and their reason is it's kind of like a boxing match that goes the distance. One person could clearly win, but it's up to the judges.
Go.
And so they're just like, they don't trust the judges. It's and I'm not putting down any judges, but what I am saying is they're bureaucrats and they're put into place by the people that want them there. So there isn't going to be a judge in place that is strictly for the people. It's just not. It's really just not how things work. The bureaucracies of the world. Yeah. So no offense, judges, don't come after me.
Right.
So right.
Or attorneys.
Yeah, or attorneys. Attorneys can come after me all they want. They keep coming after me, and it's stupid. But the attorneys are just going to find ways to make money no matter what. So it's crazy.
Well, I've seen all the cases on it. They're like, oh, yeah, I know. This is why I want to get paid up front.
Yeah, exactly.
The hourly rate.
Well, and that is a big thing. I mean, he's just like, look, it's just my attorney's like, we've given a perfect rebuttal to a complaint, and they're like, and we celebrated too early and we got denied. And he's like, I couldn't believe it. He's like, the judge just, so that is how things work.
Could you imagine though if like lenders and like agents were paid like by the hour? Like some of my files, like I know, like having a 10 o'clock conversation last night with a client, or like after hours call, 1.5 hours.
I know a lot of realtors are starting to do that.
Oh yeah, shifting to that method.
Yeah, because the way that the agencies came out nowadays, and you have to have signed buyer agencies. A lot of buyers go into there thinking they don't need their own, agency, and what's happening is some of them don't want realtors. So what they don't understand is if you purchase a house on your own, or if you sell a house on your own, you do not have errors and omissions insurance. In fact, if I were to sell my own house as a realtor, my errors and omissions doesn't work on my own house because there's plausible deniability, with certain things. And, so I can't use my E&O if I mess it. So when I sell my house, I need to get another realtor on board, so I can co-list with them, but I need their E&O just in case something happens. Yeah. And so the same thing with like just regular buyers, like they don't have insurance on this type of stuff,
right.
And so they don't have any errors and omissions insurance. And so that if there's an issue down the road, I mean, you could potentially just be sued, have to come up with it yourself. It's just really not worth it.
No.
But in addition, like realtors, they do give you information. They help you out on positioning. They help you out on negotiating and everything. But they don't. But what buyers want is they want to just be able to get into the house and not talk to the realtor, not have to commit to somebody. And so what realtors are doing now is they're doing like open door charges, $100 per door or whatever. I'll open the door for you. I'll let you in or whatever. And then if you want me to write your contract, I'll charge you to write your contract. So it's like this menu type based system where you can use as much as you want or as little. But the other thing is you are still having to sign some sort of agency, only it's usually it's not an exclusive agency. It's like just whatever it is. You're still only covering like when you do that, you're only covering the activities that you're asking your realtor to do for you. So
Still leaving yourself kind of open.
it is, you are leaving yourself open, but my point was, yeah, realtors are starting to charge that way. Like I've seen it quite a bit where they're just like, yeah, I'm starting to do more of like a go and show, charge or this and that. And I mean, it's just, I feel like it's the Wild West. But
Rent a realtor.
yeah.
I need you for the afternoon. That'll be $500.
But literally, I mean, like hourly wages and everything, it's going to come down to that, I think,
Yeah.
or something. I don't know.
Can see it.
Yeah. But we don't get an hourly wage, and I don't know about you, but I work 7 days a week, so 6 for you.
6.
6.
Yeah. 7 is recoup and it's family time.
Yeah, that's because you have young kids and stuff. My kids are starting to get a little older, and so it's just like I got to get away from them. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. No, it has nothing to do with that. It's just I always feel guilty. I have that FOMO. So if I don't pick up my phone, I'm missing out on something. If I don't, if I'm not, if somebody calls me right away, or if they call me at 9 at night, if I don't call them that night because I'm asleep or whatever, the next morning at 4 in the morning, I'm looking, I'm like, should I call them? I feel bad, because I wake up early. Yeah. I go to bed early. I wake up early, but I have that. So 7 days a week, but eventually I'd like to be able to turn it off. But I feel like when you have our job, it's more of a life. You give up certain things. I work 7 days a week for the most part, but I pretty much always get to go to my kids' sporting events and stuff.
Oh, yeah.
I work around that stuff.
Yep.
If they have something at school during the day on a Wednesday, I can go down there. I just have to work it into my schedule, put it on the calendar.
Right.
But I plan it out, and I can go to their school functions during the week and stuff. So
yeah, that is a good benefit that I can take. And if there's an appointment my wife has, I can go with her easily. And just okay, jumping into that. I'm making phone calls along on the drive there, but at least I'm able to attend it.
Yeah, exactly. How'd you get into mortgages? Like, why'd you get your MLO?
So my wife pushed me to better myself. Basically, what happened was it was during COVID, and I was doing loan servicing. So basically, I worked for BMO Harris, and I was the one inputting the mortgages into the system after they had bought them on the secondary market. And my wife looked, and she's like, I keep seeing these postings for loan officer starting at $80,000. Aren't you a loan officer? Why do you only make like $40,000? Can you do this? And I'm like, well, you need a license. I got to take tests and all that. And she's like, can you do this? And I'm like, well, let's go find out. So I took the test, and then turns out I can. So I just started doing that, and I started, writing loans and helping people out. And I found it much more satisfactory than just data entry. Get to use critical thinking and truly enjoy problem solving and helping people out.
So what'd you make Rishwa do?
Oh, she's already done.
You have to get your license, and
No, she went and did the way the IT department works now is basically you just job hunt. You go, hey, I want a raise. Hey, employer, you give me a raise? They're like, no. But if you look across over there, you're like, hey, well, they'll hire me for the same position at 20 grand more. So she's been able to level up that way by jumping through some companies.
Yeah, thank goodness for no non-competes anymore, huh?
Yeah.
Those are illegal now. You know about that, right?
Yeah.
Okay, good. Yeah.
Yep.
I mean, did she have an issue with that before? Like non-competes or anything? Or is she a private contractor?
There's proprietary information with systems and stuff like that, so you can't bring any of that over, but I think it's like a 2-year lapse on it. But she's like, doesn't affect anything between these clients. You don't want anyone stealing clients, basically.
I mean, I guess that makes sense. I don't want anybody stealing my clients either.
Yeah. But she's way better at the acronyms than I am. Like, she knows all mine. She could probably originate herself if she got licensed. But she's like, I don't want to do that. You do that. There's too much stress sometimes. She's like, you handle that. But she knows the stuff. She's heard all my conversations, and she could probably do it too.
Yeah, I mean, that's basically, I did real estate for so long that Jessica just started doing real estate. I mean, it almost seemed like she was practicing real estate before she got her license.
Yeah.
Because she was so involved with everything that I was doing that it was just
Mhm.
like, and I was like, maybe you should just get your license.
Yeah.
It's like,
What
so
got you started on it?
real estate or mortgages?
Real estate.
Real estate. My parents were realtors, so yeah. I grew up. My mom. I grew up going to open houses on the weekends. When I didn't have sports, I'd have to go to open houses and hang out and stuff. And when I graduated high school, at that time, my mom stopped being a realtor. She got into title, so she was a marketing person for a title company. And my stepdad was doing commercial real estate, and I was just super immature, so I just was playing around, partying, doing stuff, And years later, I met my wife, and finally maturing, and I'm like 26, 27 now. And we started having kids, and I was like, man, I wish I would have got my real estate license. Like, I grew up in real estate. It just felt like it was like part of my life. And I think that's why I didn't do it initially, when I first got out of high school. But so for about the first 10 years of our marriage, I told Jessica, I want to get my real estate license. I want to get my real estate license, And yeah, I think it was finally like, I moved to the oil fields in 2011 because of the last recession, or 2010 because of the last recession. And I moved out in 2013, and I started working at a car dealership, and because I was only income, and the whole time I was working there, I want to get my real estate license. And eventually, I kind of just up and quit the car company after about three years, and Jessica was just like, "Why don't you get your real estate license?"
You've been talking about it for a decade now.
I'm tired of hearing about it. So I got my real estate license, and it's interesting because it's one of those things, and I'm sure you saw this with mortgages. It's like, okay, I got my license. Where's the business?
Right.
Where's the business? I got my license, guys.
I thought the flow was supposed to happen.
Yeah.
I thought you get the license, they give you the keys to a white Mercedes,
Right.
and like, all right, go sell them houses.
Yeah, so that's not how it works. You got to grind. And so that was in 2017. And and then I've had my real estate license ever since, and got my mortgage license last year in January, and or actually February or March or something. By the time I actually got it, I took the class in January. But that was just the next step, the next step. So
yeah,
and with leading the Locals Group, being the team lead of the Orlando division, I've kind of stepped away from, at least not stepped away from sales, but stepped away from the listing side, for advertising sales. So all the advertising is Jessica on the sales. She's the only name on the MLS. Yeah. And then we get the team going so I can work on my mortgage side. So yeah. But I think once you're in real estate, you're just in real estate the rest of your life, in my opinion.
Yeah. Once you're in, you're in.
Yeah. I just feel like if you believe in real estate, if you believe in the field you're in, you're just going to work in it. You've expanded. You're starting to do, fix and flips and different things. I feel like that's just what you do when you're in real estate. You just kind of start to go down those fingers of the industry.
Yeah, you kind of branch out and see like, okay, how are people winning, and just find more of the abundance.
Yeah, exactly. So I mean, that's how I got in, and I don't plan on going anywhere.
There you go. How has it benefited you having your mortgage license? Do you feel like it's easier talking to the buyers, or what are you mostly seeing?
Yeah,
licensing helping.
I mean, honestly, you probably know I don't work with as many buyers as I should. I do. I'm trying to work with more and more buyers, and I want to work with more agents that work with buyers. It's really helped me with my listings.
Yeah.
So when I go in there with a listing presentation, I said, listen, there's not many listing agents that can offer this, but if somebody wants to use me as their lender, I will give back, so-and-so amount based on, the price of the home back to that buyer, so that you don't have to provide seller concessions. I'll help provide the seller concessions, and we'll keep more money in your pocket. And people really I think they love that.
Yeah, I think that's perfect. It's a good way to do it too. And then understanding the lending side probably helps protect the deal from falling out.
protect it, and even getting the deal. So like telling sellers, listen, when a deal comes in, I'll be able to talk to the other lender and understand what they're talking about. We'll be able to know if it's a good deal or what's going on or what's happening.
Yeah.
More so than somebody that doesn't, that's just, just a realtor, doesn't understand, both sides or what's going on. Just having my MLO allows me to see the lending side and the real estate side kind of almost simultaneously as it's going along in the process. It's definitely helped me out a ton. So yeah, in fact, when are you getting your real estate license?
Honestly, I'm probably gonna have my wife do it.
Yeah.
Without the flipping.
Yeah. I mean, it only makes sense, to be quite honest.
It does. I passed the test back in Illinois, and then I didn't pursue it because I got too heavily in mortgages, and that whole refinance thing was too strong. So that was just riding that wave. I just forgot about it.
Yeah, I mean, there's 2 roads to take, and you took the one.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's obviously worked out for you, right?
Yeah.
So,
yeah, it's been good.
Yeah. All right. Well, I mean, this was episode 3, and we got to know us finally.
Absolutely.
This is who we are. So thanks, Trent.
Absolutely. Thank you, Trevor.
We'll catch you on the next episode.
See you in the next one.
All right.